So we're taking that verse 5 again. It says she's not telling them to pursue after these men quickly. That when they pursue them, the men, they will overtake them. Verse 6, but she had brought them up to the roof of the house and hid them with the stalks of flax, which she had laid in order upon the roof. This same lady, she had managed to distract the king. And what did she do? She had hid these people up in the roof of her house. She risked her own life to save them. She was down, but she hid them up. What does it tell us? It tells us that this lady, she had the zeal for God. She wanted the things of God. She is working, even though she's a harlot, she's working in God's vineyard, doing the work that God had called her to do. Even though she was like alone in the city, being a harlot, people see her as a bad person, not knowing the intent of her heart, not knowing that she has a personal relationship with God. That is why we've been saying that your personal, what matters in life is your personal relationship with God. That is what matters. No other thing matters. Nobody knew that this lady had this kind of a relationship with her God. She had a personal relationship with God. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been in the spirit to connect, to know that these people are men of God. They came for a special spiritual assignment. And she decided to risk her life in order to help them. Okay, verse 7 says, and the men pursued after them. Wow, they actually obeyed, followed her instructions. Look at men from the king obeying the instructions from a harlot. She gave them directive that they should pursue after these people. And they actually obeyed what she said. And the men pursued after them the way to Jordan unto the ford. And as soon as they which pursued after them were gone out, they shut the gate. As soon as they went out, they shut the gate. Meaning that shutting this gate means that nobody can come in and nobody can go out. So if those spies were still in that city, there will be no way they could escape. And anybody that was outside could never come back into that city because the gates had been shut. Remember, they had just one gate in and out of the city. If you take that, if it's only that gate you can take out, and it's only that gate you can take into the city. So these people went out in pursuit of these people and they shut the gate. And here verse 8 says, and before they were laid down, she came up unto them upon the roof. This is a woman who knows what she wants. She has saved them, but not for nothing. She had to strike a deal with them. She is a good business lady. For her, well, I've saved you, you are safe, but you have to do something for me in return. Probably in the course of her business, that's what she had learned in the course of her business, because she gives them her body and they pay her in return with money. So now she is transferring that, what do I call it? She is not transferring that same idea into the work that she is doing now. She had gone to these people and she said, look, now I've saved you. I've played my part. You need to play your part. We need to strike a deal. And what is she telling them now? And before they were laid down, she came up unto them upon the roof. And she said unto the men, I know that the Lord had given you the land. How did she know? How did Rahab know that God had given this man the land. She could only know by being in the spirit. So does it mean that this lady, even though she was being described as a harlot, that she was also in the spirit? Her spiritual life was still high, even though she was being described as a harlot. Does it mean that the name they called her was not actually her name? Does it mean that she wasn't actually a harlot, but they decided to give her that name, harlot? Or does it mean that she was a harlot, but something has shifted in her life? There was a shift in her life that people in the city, they didn't know that she was now a new person. They couldn't see that shift. That she was, the harlot they saw yesterday was not the harlot they were seeing that day. Because something shifted. And now she's doing the work of God, but they didn't know. They were still looking at her with the way they saw her yesterday, not knowing that something had taken place. There had been a transformation in her life. Otherwise, how could a harlot be in the spirit to know that these people were sent by God? Be in the spirit that these people are men of God, that God had already given them the land. God had already given them the victory for a battle they have not fought. How did she get that information? Could it be that she got a revelation with regards to that? Otherwise, how did she get that information? How did she know? This is a question we need to ponder over. How did Rahab know that these people are from God? How did she know that God had given them the land? And meanwhile, she's described as a harlot. People that knew her knows her as a harlot. How could a harlot be so in tune with the things of God that she even got a clear revelation of who these people were? Think about it. Okay. It says, I know that the Lord had given you the land, and that your terror is falling upon us, and that all the inhabitants of the land faint because of you. In detail, Rahab knows everything about these men. She explained who they were in detail to them. She told them that their terror is in the whole of the land. Everybody is panicking because of them. How did Rahab get that information? That is something to ponder over. How did she get all this information? Because these are first-hand information. Was it revealed to her in a dream or in a vision? Or was it that someone told her? The Bible did not record that anybody told her what she just said. But somehow, that's the first-hand information that she had. And meanwhile, she was described as a harlot. And meanwhile, there was a shift that people did not recognize. People did not know there was a shift. And meanwhile, there was a transformation that people did not know. They were still looking at her as Rahab the harlot. Verse 10 says, for we have heard how the Lord dried up the water of the Red Sea for you. So she heard from where? So even though Rahab was a harlot, she's still interested in the things of God, that she actually puts her ears down to get information that had to do with the things of God, with the miracles that God had done, with all the things that God had done. She heard everything. You can only hear what you're interested to hear. When you're interested in someone, there's nothing about that person you will not hear. For instance, people that are so obsessed with all the celebrities, they tend to read everything about them, watch every program about them and all that. So they are so conversant with everything that has to do with them. So does it mean that Rahab is so in tune with the things of God? She's so interested in the things of God that all the stories she wants to hear are the stories that had to do with the things that God had done. Otherwise, how could she have heard that these people, God divided the Red Sea for them and they walked on dry ground? If she was not interested in the things of God, how could she have known all the things that God did for these people? That means even though she was described as a harlot, she was in tune and in line with the workings of God in that environment and beyond.